Well, we put down the seed like we had told you, and then we also purchased another 5 gallons, 5 pounds of seed in case we need to re-go over it. That's about it for the update.
Okay. Mary, what are your thoughts?
And did you see the back slope too near the ball field, or just the side near the wetland?
Just side near the wetland for right now.
Okay. And no further update on when you're going to stabilize the top or anything?
No, nothing right now. Still working with Ed, trying to get him to get it through his head that he needs to get rid of it all.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a little bit of a brush back from him. I'll get it done when I can. Like, okay, well, let's get it done.
Yeah.
So Steve, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to ask for that top part. So were you guys going to seed that top part or just put gravel on it for the?
Right now, we're kind of deciding whether we're going to use gravel or seed, but I think it's looking more like gravel right now.
Mary, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, we were kind of, I think our main issue was whether or not we were going to ask them to file a request for determination, depending on how much work they did. And I think we had kind of left it at if they just grass it and do our requirements, there was no need to file a request for determination. Graveling it is pretty minor work, but it would be up to the board. You could certainly ask the VFW to make a filing for that.
Do we also want to have a fence put up to prevent people from dumping anything?
Right, we did talk about a fence, Steve. How did?
Yes, we have talked about it, and we have yet to vote on it yet. But we have put it out there, and the members are finding out prices and all that good stuff. See, we're going to get a couple of quotes on putting the fence up. So, or we may put it up ourselves, seeing how it's so little of an area.
Yeah, it wouldn't be very long.
No.
So would we need a request for determination to do the fence?
It could be done like that, or we could have it under the enforcement order. I think it could go either way.
Do you have any purposes from members of the commission?
This is Mike. I don't see a need for a request. I think there's been a lot of good progress made with the enforcement order. As for fencing too, maybe Mary and you, Steve, could go out there and figure out where the fence needs to be. I don't think you need to fence the whole area. It seems to me like there's one area that's kind of vulnerable.
Yep.
And maybe if the fencing was just limited to that area.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah. If you'd like to meet Mary, when would you like to? Oh, muted.
Yeah, we're still having a little bit of echo, so I thought if as many of us as possible could mute. Yeah, Monday would work for me.
Yeah, it'd be good.
You want to do? Is early better for you, or?
Yeah, probably about 9 o'clock would be good.
9 o'clock, that'd be good.
All right, 9 o'clock on Monday then.
And then I would think that because we kind of are waiting to see the grass grow and give them a little bit of time to figure out what they're doing, that maybe we could have them on, give them a month before we have them on our agenda again.
That sounds good.
All right.
So would that be our June meeting?
Yeah, that's June 7th. Oh, wait, no, June 14th.
June 14th. All right.
At 7 again?
We actually have to talk about that June 14th meeting because the community center dedication is at 6:30. So, but that's maybe a conversation for later. So I'll let you know the time, Stephen.
All right. Is that it?
Well, okay. Yep, that sounds fine. Thank you for attending in tonight.
All right. We'll see you later.
Okay, thank you. Okay. How about, since we have a little bit of time, we should probably talk about the 14th for the opening of the community center. Do we have people intending to attend?
I was hoping to attend, but my world will not come to an end if I don't. I
Well,
can also bring my tablet and sign on from there.
We actually have 3 weeks between meetings. So we could do a meeting June 7th, and it would be 2 weeks after the 24th if we wanted to.
June 7th, I think, is a community preservation committee meeting.
Oh, okay. We can't move days.
Yeah, so I would take Mike and I out.
Or we could do
Would-
it
would
maybe
it
later
start-
on the.
Yeah, would a start on the 14th at 8 be too late?
I think that could be okay.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Good.
Maybe we could try not to schedule too much into that particular meeting.
That would be good to do.
Do a lot of people plan on going to the opening from the Conservation Commission?
I do.
Not me.
Anyone else other than Marcella?
I was thinking of going.
Okay, does that mean you're going?
Echo.
Is it gone now?
That was tough.
No.
But if only Marcella's going, I just assume keep the meeting at the same time. If others are going, then sure, setting it back makes sense, but
Yeah, it's fine. If I miss a meeting, it's not the end of the world, or if I come late. So please go ahead. Don't change things on my account.
Okay. Oh, if Mary's going, then we should make it later.
Doesn't really matter to me. If we pushed it later, I could be fine with 7:30. I could go for half an hour and then leave or something.
Okay, 7:30 would be good. Okay, so let's make our meeting on that day 7:30. And do we have anything that we can accomplish in 2 minutes?
I could give an update on land stewardship,
Okay.
which is, yay, we got the money for the bridge. Woohoo!
Oh, that was good.
Yes.
There's no testing at town hall. Town meeting.
Yeah, it was, that went really surprisingly smoothly. So anyway, that's
Good job.
report.
Is that all for open land stewardship, Marcella?
We'll be discussing the letter to Dogwood Drive, but that's more, I don't know if that's land stewardship or conservation, but I'm going to keep it in the conservation category.
Okay. How about open space, Bill?
Bill's not here. He's at another meeting, and he said he didn't have anything to discuss. Although I'm sure there's, he had some thoughts about the land swap, the Pleasant Woods thing, but we'll be discussing that later. So hopefully he'll be here.
Okay. So 7:15, we have a notice intent continued for Robinson Family Conservation Restriction Area, installation of a trail bridge and boardwalk.
Well, this is Mike. I think I'd ask for another continuation. Can speak a little bit about it. We still need to finalize the trails at Mechanic Street to see what kind of a wetland crossing is going to be required there, if any, whether it's just going to be stream crossing or if there's a wetland crossing involved. The other thing, I did have some communications with with a land trust, and they have used those helical piles for basically a fairly low boardwalk, and they also use a design which basically double walled PVC pipe, and they use that as their footers. And I checked out the cost of the helical piles would be about $60, $70 a piece, and we probably need around at least 16 of them at Robertson. I really don't think, and but Mia, our friend Mia, did suggest that if you read the regs carefully, I'm somewhat dubious because it says you can use helical piles basically provided there's no shading impact. But if a boardwalk is only like about a foot off the ground, how can there not be a shading impact? But, as Mia said, maybe we should just go with that for Robertson's. The other way to look at it is if we say, okay, we need to mitigate, then the mitigation performance standards are all kind of out of whack too, because you're supposed to mitigate near the impact, basically. And there's no way we can possibly mitigate, maybe even on the same property, let alone near the actual impact. I personally, and maybe the commission would be interested in this. Once we get through this, I did a little research into DEP. They have a executive secretary for policy, and I think somebody should write them a letter about this problem, because I suspect some land trusts are just ignoring it. Some conservation commissions are just ignoring it. Whatever reason, Mia flagged it for us. I just think maybe someone should be aware of it. So maybe either they could solve this with a policy, a DEP policy, or the next time they update the regulations, they could tweak them a little bit to save everybody some angst regarding this issue. I don't know what Marcella, do you have any thoughts on Robertson's? Anything else?
Sorry, not that I can think of right now. So,
if we'd go with those helical piles, it would be more expensive, but it also would be a lot more time consuming to build that boardwalk. We've gotten kind of used to building these plank boardwalks, which, you can throw out 32 or 48 feet with, a few people in an afternoon. These helical pile boardwalks would be a lot more time consuming, but it's rather than building the mitigation area somewhere, it's probably the least difficult and expensive option.
Well, building a mitigation area is definitely time consuming too. So
yes.
Let's keep it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
So 2 things. One thing, who would like to draft that letter?
Well, I would take a first crack at it, but it'll be down the road quite a bit, Chris.
Okay.
You know, let's get through this Robertson trail, and also, you know, we're probably going to run into a very similar issue at, or we could run into a very similar issue at Mechanic Street. You know, if there's any wetland that's going to be crossed. I just haven't seen the crossing yet. I don't know if it's just a simple stream crossing or if there's BVW involved, and then we run into the same issue. It's not the stream crossing that is the problem. It's when you start to impact adjacent BVW that, you know, we run into the problem. And I do think we should try to meet the regs as best we can, since we require, you know, the public to do that. You know, and if Mia's given us guidance, we can use the helical piles, and a mitigation area is, you know, just really difficult. Even at Mechanic Street, how would we get there to hire someone to build us a little mitigation area that's basically deep in along the power line?
And my
Let's
second point
just
was,
pardon?
my second point was, when did you want to continue the hearing to?
Marcella, maybe next meeting?
Sure. And well, you know, why don't we have the next meeting? Maybe the land stewardship committee should meet. Actually,
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
so that would be in the first week of June. And then we can discuss it and perhaps come up with something a little more concrete.
So that would be 2 meetings. First meeting in June.
Yeah, the first Thursday in June. So we'd
That
probably,
sounds good.
the 14th would be the day we meet.
Okay.
That sounds good.
And what time, Mary, on the 14th?
I don't think we have anything else on the 14th, so we could do that at 7:15 again. Or no, 14th. Let's say 7:45.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, with that said, we have a little bit of time. So how about if we look at the administrator's report?
All right, I'm going to first talk about something I worked on today, which I think a little bit got into my report, but not very much. Let me share my screen. So we were contacted by, can you guys see it?
Yeah.
So this is Clayton Farm Road, the Dean Pond Preserve. And I think I mentioned this a while back that someone wants a horseback riding permission to ride horseback. And here's the situation. It's the person who lives at 114 Hopkinton Road. And I thought they kind of wanted to go all the way back here to access the forest, but all they want to do is they're going to go along here, kind of use this path, the road which goes between the detention basins, and I guess be careful of the riprap there. And they just want to be able to get to the road so they can take their horse down the road to get to the state forest, instead of walking around on West Main, which is obviously very dangerous. So the lawyer's thinking of writing it up as like, obviously they give us a draft, but they wanted the okay of the Conservation Commission before doing it, because it would be going through this open space parcel here, which is mostly wetland. And so it would just, I think he would describe it in pretty general terms. There's not going to be any easement actually officially laid out. And I think what we ended up with is that this would go with the current property owner and then not to a future property owner.
That sounds fine to me.
Would that be a temporary fix though, if that property is ever sold?
I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't understand that.
Well, you said that fix would be for the current landowner. So if
Yep.
there's a landowner, would that problem come up again?
Yeah, so this would stick with it. I believe the lawyer said they'd write it so it would be for the current owner, and then it would just disappear, and hopefully the future owner would not know that this was there. As the lawyer pointed out, this is not like a obvious or a typical horse property. It's, you know, it doesn't have huge barns or anything. They do have horses here, but when it's sold, you know, the person who buys it might not necessarily be a horse person. We don't know that though.
And they can always ask for the same arrangement if they feel they need it, and develop something with the lawyer separately.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think the background on this is that I think they were just trying to do this person a favor. It's interesting, like this shed here is actually her shed. And so Lobisser rearranged the lot lines here, which has not been reflected, to put the shed and the driveway on her property. So there was a lot of back and forth about that.
Do any other members of the commission have a comment?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either. I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine with me as well.
It might be.
Do we need to
No.
sign off on the letter that the lawyer puts, presents, or is that, are we?
Yeah,
just-
I think the lawyer's going to develop something that we'll look at, and then we can sign off on that. And they're working on the deed as well for that piece of open space. And we do have to, or you guys, the board members, have to sign off on that deed.
So is that something we'll address later?
Yes, once it's finished, I believe. They're working on it. They really want to get it done. So,
You need a vote of the commission?
yeah, well, the commission might want to make a motion that we agree to the concept of allowing the homeowner at 114 Hopkinton Road to have a, I guess you would call it temporary, be allowed to use their horses on the town land.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Alan, aye.
David,
Marcella, aye.
Mike and Lulu say aye.
Did we hear from everyone else? So, Ellen, did you do this by chat?
I already said aye.
And how about David?
I was also an aye, Chris.
Okay. And Tom? So that's a unanimous vote of the members present. And let's go back to the administrator's report after this hearing, which we have at 7:30, which is 343 Mendon Street.
Is Matt on the line? I did talk to him this afternoon. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I just got on.
So Matt and I were talking this afternoon. We've had a few discussions this week about the getting the vernal pool certified. And Matt, why don't you tell them what your feelings are on that?
As far as the pond goes in my backyard, it's clearly a man-made pond. It's definitely a retention pond that was made by the previous owners, and they just like to kind of maintain it and keep it from getting too overgrown and vegetated. That would turn into a mosquito breeding ground. As soon as I make it a vernal pool, that pretty much eliminates me from doing anything within 100 feet. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that would kind of rule out. It's I don't know, it's about 50 feet off my back porch, maybe a little more. So it would there'd be a lot of mosquitoes coming in the backyard if it goes untouched. I was looking at kind of the groundwater level, and the septic system it's clearly above the vernal pool. So it's pretty much a hole that someone dug into the ground a while ago to control the water to keep it from coming towards the house. I think that's it right now. I don't know if anybody has anything to say or.
This is Chris. Just mentioned that with vernal pool, it doesn't matter how it came to be. It doesn't matter if it's man-made or natural forming.
If it isn't to be certified a vernal pool, how were you planning to manage mosquitoes? It's still a water body that's likely to contain mosquitoes.
Say that again?
How are you planning to manage the mosquitoes if it's not to be a vernal pool? They're going to be there. If there's water there, they'll be there.
Pretty much I would be bathing in DEET. I'm not sure how to answer that.
Mosquitoes. Sometimes people have bat houses, so the bats will eat a lot of mosquitoes. So if you were to have a bat house or two, that would definitely take care of the mosquitoes.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
If you were to put up a bat house or two, they would eat their weight in mosquitoes within an hour. And those are in post up on a tree.
Yeah, I could definitely put up bat houses. I'd kind of like to
We're getting that echo again.
Is it going now?
Yeah, I think you accidentally unmuted your computer, Chris.
This is Tom. So you still have restrictions, whether that's a man-made body of water or not. It is a vernal pool. It's an active vernal pool. So I'm not sure what your plans were to do with that body of water.
Well,
yeah, and this is Mike. Just let me follow what Tom said. If this was an engineered design structure, say a detention pond at some subdivision, or a retention pond at some subdivision, or a farm pond, then it would not be a regulated water, body of water. You can make accidental wetlands, and an accidental wetland or vernal pool becomes a resource area. The other question I have just is for Mary. We're sure this doesn't have enough volume to be isolated land subject to flooding?
I didn't calculate it, but I wouldn't think so, based on the size. I can look into that though.
Higher than my driveway down below in front of the house, so.
Well, that isolated land subject to flooding, I think, is a 1/4 acre foot, right?
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah. So in other words, if it's 1/4 acre in size with a foot of water, that would be a regulated resource area.
Yeah, I reminded Matt this afternoon and the other times we talked to him that, that he has a pretty big violation in front with all the fill right next to the wetland. And we could ask him to do engineered plans, et cetera, and that really in asking to let us get the vernal pool certified, it seemed like a reasonable ask, considering, the large amount of fill that was put in his front yard without a permit. I think Matt was concerned about vegetation, starting to grow in the pond, and I don't know. It seems like, just from looking at the pond myself, it seemed like it would be a while before it would get any. It was pretty clean. There wasn't a lot of algae. There wasn't any lily pads or anything in there. With the trees and stuff, I imagine that wouldn't be a problem for quite a while. That was just my impression of the pool.
If it is a vernal pool, does that mean that activity such as cutting back, small bits of vegetation or invasives, is that not permitted, or would that still be okay?
Well, I think if we certify it as a vernal pool, then, he would have to, come, and maybe depending on the volume, obviously, but, if he was doing a lot of clearing, we would just ask him to appear before us. Obviously if it's just a little bit, I don't think it would matter.
Matthew, what kind of maintenance were you envisioning for this pond, or what?
General brush encroaching into the man-made pond, and just kind of, it's great to skate on in the winter and look at in the other seasons. So just kind of maintain it for what it is and enjoy it. We can talk about, if I decide to move forward with taking care of it, adding silt barriers and everything that's downstream without that, that old trench that Mary was talking about last week.
Hey, Matt, I was just looking at the aerial photo, and maybe I'll share it. Maybe we can make some kind of agreement about, certainly 100 feet from the pond gets pretty close to your house, but some of that's previously disturbed area. So here's approximately 100 feet. There's the house. And this is actually a few years old. This is not near map. This is 2021. So it's not showing the area. This is what it was in 21. So 100 feet, it gives you this, and that's what it was. It was all pretty much undisturbed in 2021. I think if you wanted maybe this is something we can negotiate, a swath of open area, maybe 10 or 15 feet wide, with that you would maintain as open. I don't know if the commission would be open to that, and you know, and then we'd still get the pool certified.
Yeah, I think some kind of compromise is worth considering. It, like just keeping like a maybe, I don't want to call it a beach area, but a place where you could easily access if you wanted to go skating or paddle around in a boat or whatever you choose to do in there. Just give you the room to do that. You know, if that's part of your plan for the body of water. What else do you feel like you would want?
Maybe, you know, keep back the sides of the pond with a couple more stones.
So adding a few more stones to the pond, and let's look at, I have my pictures in last week's report, I think.
If like, are you in any danger of that breaching and flowing down toward your home? You know, if that's containing, you know, I don't know how much water it actually contains, but that, you know, is flooding a concern for you? Like that it seems like that's, you know, if there were high water or something, that it could overflow and erode and, you know, come toward your house. That's just wondering if that's a likely possibility, or if you checked that out and made sure it doesn't happen.
Well, there's a large hill to the left of the pond. If you're looking at the street, all the water sheds in from there, so it's definitely a possibility.
He does have an outlet at the back of the pond, Marcella, which flows away from the house. And I don't think, you know, this is where the water level was pretty much, it was there. And so it'd have to be like 2 feet higher than that to go anywhere near his house. And so I think it would go that way instead of towards his house.
Got it. Where does that outlet flow now? Does it just sort of disperse into the woods? Has it created another wetland?
Yeah, I followed that track down, and it kind of it goes down for several feet, then it dissipates, and there's no wetland at the bottom of it, and there's no intermittent stream bed either. It just ends because it was man-made.
So it just settles into the soil and drains into the soil. Okay.
Yep.
Is it unusual to certify a vernal pool and then have, you know, certain conditions that we, you know, allow for, you know, some keeping it clear in an area, or you know, allowing some more activity near it, or is that unprecedented?
Well, we did something similar with 165 South Street, but he had an order of conditions, and that was getting recorded at the Registry of Deeds. So that kind of protected his existing lawn. But in this case, it seems like we could do something similar and say, all right, there's an area that we're going to allow to be open, but then this other area wouldn't be developed. But I would want that to somehow be recorded, or in some way there should be record of that.
And certifying the vernal pool is not considered a record of that. We'd want something more concrete, like a deed, something registered at the Registry of Deeds.
Yeah, a formal deed restriction's a little bit more complicated, I would think, but it might do the same thing. Yeah, that's what Mike had kind of originally proposed, is putting a deed restriction on the pond. I think you can be a little bit more specific about what remains open in a deed restriction and what is not protected. Whereas if you just get the vernal pool certified, it just protects everything in that 100-foot radius.
What paperwork, Mary, would that entail for Matt to do?
I don't know if that was directed towards me, but I can't hear anything that you're saying.
For Mary, what paperwork would that require Matt to do?
Well, I think, Mike had given us a sample of a deed restriction, which, we'd have to get written up and probably get our town council to review. And then we would just need to get that recorded, I believe. Mike, maybe you have further thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Although the one that I provided, could certainly be modified quite a bit for this situation.
So I looked into that one that you provided, and that house was foreclosed on. I don't know if they agreed to that because they knew they were losing their house, or I'm not sure, but that doesn't really seem like something that's very fair.
Well, I didn't. I supplied it as an example. I'm not sure what the right thing to do here is. Another way to go. Well, no, never mind. I was thinking about something, but I did a little quick math. It doesn't look like it's a 1/4 acre foot, so it's too small to be a isolated land subject to flooding.
So, Mary, what would you recommend?
Well, this is Mike again. If we did do a deed restriction route, if we did go that route, maybe we could just put a few bounds, 100 foot or so from the pond, on 3 sides, basically, and leave the side that's near the house pretty much unprotected.
Well, if you think about it, that would be my entire yard.
No. Well, we have to. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the side that is that's between the pond and the house would not have any protection. It would be the Mary's kind of doing it. It would be the side that, say, is to the north of the pond and to the south of the pond. That would be protected. I don't know. I'm just thinking on the fly here. I'm not sure.
Does the fact remain that this is Matthew's call? If he doesn't want to have us certify it, then we can't certify it. So, but we still, I don't know if we have any leverage with, the violation, but, definitely got a pass with that.
Well, I'm open to keep it natural out back. I'm not trying to get rid of the pond. I'm not trying to undam it and fill it in with water, fill it in with dirt. I just want to maintain it and keep my backyard looking pretty.
Yeah, this is Tom. Mike's suggestion I thought was pretty good. I think, Matt, it'll give you the front piece, the picture we're looking at. You can maintain that area. And then the 2 sides in the back would be left as they are now. I think that's pretty good considering, like Mary said, you've got a big violation up in the front of your property, and we can require you to get engineered plans. And so we're trying to work with you, but I don't
Oh, I'm trying to
Once
listen to
you,
you guys too, but a couple meetings ago, you guys gave me permission to stabilize and finalize the out front portion. So I'm not sure where we stand with that, but we can't really. I could have undid what was on, what happened out front, but now, you guys kind of gave me the go ahead, so now we're backtracking.
I I would quibble with your thought of how that went, but I'll leave it be. But
Okay.
then I'm confused. Then you said you don't want to do anything to it. We're saying you can use that front piece to manage it, but that's not enough. That's what I'm hearing you say.
I just don't want to certify it as a vernal pool.
Right, but if we put bounds in on the other sides other than the front, it's not certified.
I mean, I'd kind of just like to keep it the way it is. I don't understand why we have to go through all the other bounds if I agree to restore what was disrupted.
That's my opinion on the whole thing. I thought Mike's proposal was a good one. I thought it was fair. I thought it was a nice compromise. Others may, agree with you, and that's fine. There are 7 members, so everybody has a say. But that's my position on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
This is Chris. I think that Mike's proposal was reasonable because we're pretty much not moving forward with any of the violations in the front near the road. So that's a good trade-off.
I'm sorry, Chris, I can't understand you. I don't know if that's me, if someone can relay it or what.
You're getting an echo.
I'm just saying that I agree with Mike saying that putting the bounds in would be less work than having an engineer develop plans to take care of the violation on the front of your property. Does anyone else have comments from the session?
This is Mike. Mary, could you perhaps draw up a very simple deed restriction that would just basically protect the sides of the pond and recognize that there's maybe there're going to be 4 bounds put up there, and see if that's could be acceptable to everyone involved. I don't think it would be particularly onerous on the owner, and it might get the commission some satisfaction that the vernal pool, at least an area around the pool, was protected.
Yeah, I'm willing to do that.
Just see what it looks like. We don't have to make any decisions right now.
So, Mary, would we want to continue this hearing until our next meeting?
Sure. Yeah, I think we have Governor's Landing, and I don't think we specified a time, so we could do this anytime next meeting.
What time is good for you, Matt?
You're muted,
Matt. Next week doesn't matter. Same time is fine with me. 7:30.
Yeah, it would be the 24th, so 2 weeks.
Okay. Sounds good.
We appreciate you working together, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, any other comments before we move on? Hearing none, our 7:45 was a discussion with the DPW director about consolidating the restoration along Sunbrook, included in the present project with restoration work be included with the Grove Street Bridge project. So that's all you're on here.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to fit me in your schedule tonight. I wanted to come before the commission and talk about the order of conditions that the commission approved back in July 14th of 2021, associated with the Upton Community Center. And the order of conditions was related to a plan that showed some mitigation and restoration on the brook on either side of Grove Street. And if you recall, the past town manager, Derek Brindisi, I think had indicated that he was going to reach out to the Public Works Department. That's the plan. Thank you very much for pulling that up. Reach out to the Public Works Department to look into performing this work. And I had already had some initial meetings with David Pickart back then to discuss some of the work. And it was right about that time we discovered that the Grove Street Bridge was going to need to be replaced. And in doing such, it was going to hinder our efforts on either side of the bridge for quite a distance, similar to what we did when we did the Fowler Bridge. So a couple of things I noted about the original order of conditions is, one is it expires 3 years from the issuance, which is going to be this July. It's going to expire. In addition to that, it would make more sense, and I want to hear how the commission feels about this, and if you're in agreement with me, how we proceed to make these arrangements. It makes more sense in my mind to attach this condition to the construction of the new bridge, and I'll elaborate on that. The bridge is at the 25% design stage now. We are expecting to finish the design sometime during the month of July, which means we're going to have a anticipated bid date of end of July, beginning of August. It's about a 6-month build, pretty much the same as Fowler. So we should have substantial completion around December or January. And that's about the time of year when we completed Fowler. And if you recall Fowler, we had, in addition to protecting wetland resource areas, we had at least a 5,000 square foot replication involved in that. And we actually delayed that to the spring for the plantings through the commission, of course. So we're probably looking at being able to do this work in the spring of 2024. The bridge will be complete and we will have favorable weather and temperatures to be able to do this work. My goal would be to take the order of conditions as approved with the plans and make no changes to them and simply attach it to the bid for the bridge so that I can assign this work to the contractor and ensure that it gets done. What I don't know, because this is uncharted territory for me, I have never moved or requested an order of conditions be removed from one project and put on another. So I'm not sure of the logistics of how that's possible. And the other thing to keep in mind is the Upton Community Center is complete and it's still on a temporary occupancy. And before it can go on a permanent occupancy, it would need to satisfy this order of conditions. So it makes sense to me to ensure that this work gets done and done correctly. The time frame is the time frame, and that the work will not be able to be completed until the spring of 2024. I would like to put these in the bid documents to ensure the work gets done and see how the commission feels about moving the order conditions over to the bridge. Thank you.
Mary, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I recommended to Dennis that it seems to make sense that we could issue a partial certificate for the community center and note that these conditions aren't completed yet. I think that once we issue the order for the bridge, at that point we could perhaps do a complete certification for the community center. No, and then that these conditions would be included with the bridge conditions.
As a reminder to the commission, once the bridge is fully designed, we will be coming before the commission, as it would typically be done for the bridge itself. So maybe that would be the appropriate time to do this. There's two things I'm pretty sure the commission's picking up on what I'm trying to accomplish here. First and foremost, I'm trying to make sure that these order of conditions stand just as they were agreed upon then, and that we don't lose track of that, and we make sure that we ensure that it gets done. That's one. Two, the Upton Community Center needs to have a full occupancy, and having this attached to it is going to prevent that. And three, they will not be able to do the work, or nobody could do the work no sooner than the spring of 2024, just because of the logistics of rebuilding that bridge and the time frame associated with that. So those are my goals.
I think we all understand, and it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. And I like Mary's idea of issuing a partial for the community center, as long as that, would check the box for their occupancy permit. Hopefully it would. And then we can just roll this into the, Dennis can just roll this into the bridge contract. It seems like that's a very reasonable way to go about this, assuming that the partial would check the box for occupancy. It should, but need to make sure.
Do we have other questions or concerns from members of the commission?
That makes sense to me.
And one question for Mary. With the governor always pushing things back a little bit because of the COVID, does that make this permit extend longer?
Yes. So the community center order of conditions, usually they're good for 3 years, but because of COVID, they're essentially good for, I think it's like 4 years and 3 months. It's 462 days extra. So that keeps that community center order open for a fair bit longer.
Does that help you, Dennis?
Absolutely. It puts my mind to ease that we're not going to run into red tape because an order of conditions wasn't satisfied in a time frame. That was one of my concerns, but yes, because we put the bridge out in this July or August, and the work is completed substantial completion December, January, and that means the bridge is open to traffic. And then when spring weather comes around, then we do, if there's any replications that are associated with this, and we'll know when the final design's there. I don't believe there is, but we can do the mitigation and the restoration plan, and that would still be concluded before July of 24. So there would be ample time.
Okay, perfect. So, Mary, what do you need from us?
I think it's good we had this discussion. I don't think we really need anything else. I still haven't gotten a request for certificate of compliance from the community center yet. So once that comes in, then we can issue the partial and go from there.
Does that help you, Dennis?
It does, and I'll speak with the building inspector to ensure that the partial is sufficient. I believe it is too, and that we won't have a problem. But if we do, I'll come back to the board and we'll have more discussion about this and see what we want to do to rectify that. But I think we're good.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Have a good night. Thank you. And the next agenda was housing production planning update on conservation properties. Now, I just wanted to mention that in our previous meetings with the household production plan, it was talked about Pleasant Woods behind Coach Road Estate and Dunkin' Donuts. That property, Pleasant Woods, I've mentioned it multiple times to the group that is a conservation area, and they continue to say that they want to build something over there. And so they were talking about a land swap, so maybe swapping that parcel with other land that conservation would rather have, and if there are any legal issues with that. And then their concern was that that area has water and sewer access, and other locations don't necessarily have that. So I wanted to bring that up to everyone to hear what your thoughts were.
How developable is this parcel? Have they actually walked it?
Probably not. But they just see a spot on the map that they like.
Why don't they take a walk there before they start pushing this? I mean, I am willing to offer some kind of negotiation. I can see, Bill and I talked a little bit, and, protecting, maybe getting some permanent protection for Stephens and Forest Heights would be fair. And if there were to be any development on this parcel, that it be an open space development, and that the trail that a trail be maintained from Warren Street to the center of West Upton. That would be one way to approach it.
Now, Mike mentioned on that property there is at least one vernal pool. Is that correct?
Yeah, maybe I could share something. It'd take me a while, but there's potentially several vernal pools on there. I think there could be at least 3. But we've never actually attempted to certify them. We kind of run out of time to do that this year. The property has a lot of slope constraints, bedrock constraints. But I would support what Marcella, said, is, willing to listen. There's a whole process now under the Public Lands Protection Act, or all that is part of the packet. That act just became enforced, or was just approved not too long ago, and there might be additional regulations and policy forthcoming, but there is some initial information that you can review. And I think if I read it right, ultimately the state would, or the DCS would have to approve any kind of a land swap, basically. One thing I noticed in their Q&A was that this had concerned me some, that they don't let you use unprotected open space development land. For example, Glen Echo, where there's no CR on it, you can't use that property to satisfy for the replacement. It has, which I was a little worried about that at first, as they tried to, something like that might happen. And like Marcella said, there's Stephens and Forest Heights, and there's also that parcel on Westboro Road that the town owns without any protections. But anyway, I think if I was going to advise this committee, Chris, is before they get too far down the rabbit hole, they really maybe if they want to spend some money and hire an engineer to develop a conceptual plan, and also part of that engineering services would be to prepare a conceptual cost estimate for site development. In other words, the engineering would include quantity estimates for like how much bedrock they probably would have to blast or how much fill they would need. Also how to avoid the vernal pools. If before they get too far, I think they really, need to understand what they're dealing with and what might be possible here, in terms of cost and benefit.
Before they even do that, I'm not kidding. Have them walk it with
Yeah,
a developer. I mean, surely somebody
Yeah.
has a friend who knows how to look at land like that, and they could do that for free.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering where are they planning on accessing it from? Because there's no real access from 140 or anything, is there?
Well, they're thinking about something from Ward Street.
Okay.
There is access from Warren. There's a strip of land, but from 140, that's a good question. I know there's an ongoing real estate dispute that might involve some of the property that the gas station owns. But I don't know what the status of that is. Apparently, I mentioned it to town manager, a month or two ago, and all he said is that the state housing authority is working through that, and that's all I know. But other than that, there is an issue. Some of the Coach Road apartment parking is apparently on the gas station property. Actually, you can see that right there. And this was like 5 years ago when went to a housing authority meeting, and they said they couldn't really say anything because it was, in court, and it was a, executive session type information. But I think they were trying to do eminent domain on some of the gas station property, but I don't know where that is. But assuming if they got control of that property, that might be their access point.
Okay, well, I've written down a lot of notes about this, and I'll forward them to the Housing Production Committee. And they had one other thing saying for open space and recreation plan and tunnel land, putting together a checklist of what properties open space would like to see protected more versus what they would want to, like you guys already mentioned. And they don't have force heights on their radar at all. So I'm hesitant to bring that up. I think Forest Heights doesn't have town water and sewer, so that's not something they would be interested in pursuing. So, do you think there's any need to prioritize properties for housing use or protection, or they're all pretty much protected as is?
Well, I think it would be worth looking at the parcels and also identifying what is the best use for, what's the best type of housing for a particular parcel. You might be able to get, a 3-unit condo in one building and, satisfy some, some of the need for housing. And that could be a single structure, or you could, if a parcel is more suited to, raising horses on, that's a whole, these parcels each have individual qualities that make them more or less suitable for various types of construction.
And Mike, do you have a comment? I see your hands up.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay.
Lulu?
Hey, Chris.
So that was it.
Actually, when in doubt, I blame Cooper. But Lulu's perfect.
Housing production group, and at some point they'll have a draft comments document for people to read. We're not quite at that point.
Hey.
Mr. Taylor has joined us, and I think he would like to speak.
Yes, I would like to speak. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I think the housing production plan can consider is reviewing the land that's in chapter, because they should be one of the organizations should be consulted when the land comes out of chapter. Because I don't believe there's any, if the town were to take the land, they don't have any restriction on what it can be used for. And somebody would have to confirm that if the town were to take the land, they could use it for a purpose, a residential purpose.
I know on the commission, on the committee, usually Joe and also Mike, the town planner, are on that committee, so they would probably know more about that than I would. That's a good point, Bill. I note that down. We'll bring that up at our next meeting, which is the 18th of this month. If anyone else wants to join.
Yeah, one other thing, Chris and everyone, is if these folks are going to do a little site visit or road trip, they might want to look at Kenneth Village too, which is, there's 8 over 55 units, built on like 5 acres, fairly high density. I mean, that might be a model to apply somewhere. Just a thought.
And those are 8 units and 4 structures, correct? So
correct.
They're duplexes.
Yeah.
Which is a more efficient way to use the land, for one.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of town land, one place that might work is the Westboro Road Park, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Off of Mendon Street.
Chris, I did.
It's Kenneth Village off of Mendon Street.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll point that out to them. So with that said, does anyone have another question or comment for me to bring back to the group? So, does anyone have anything for me to bring back to the group or not?
Nope.
No, just those comments.
Okay, and my comments is down. So thank you for the information. So we should really go back up to Mary's report. That's where we kind of left off. So Mary, what else for your report?
All right. Yeah, it's been a pretty busy few weeks. So I had a site visit at Cobbler's Creek, and I met with the people who put the road in. I was concerned about this crossing here. They told, and the plans that we have are not super conclusive. They don't really give a lot of detail. But there's obviously they want dirt along the side here. And then, but they had said there was dirt that was supposedly going into the culvert, but I think more of it washed in there than they wanted. So I did talk with them, and they're gonna at least put some erosion controls along here so it doesn't get worse. And they're cleaning up the bottom side. It was actually a fair bit worse after, this was before the like 2 inches of rain that we had. And we looked at it after the 2 inches of rain, and it was a fair bit worse. So they were going to clean this up. There was also a pretty large gully. This is on the section 2 that they haven't really started developing, but they've got all their dirt stored there. You can't really tell from the picture, but it's actually like 2 or 3 feet deep. This is a pretty large gully that they promised me they would take care of and put check dams in. The gully kind of ends up running against a set of erosion controls, which they're going to fix as well.
Is any of this area the part of the property that's going to be developed? Like, are they going to be having problems once the houses are built because of the contours of the property?
Yeah, I mean, this section here, like in the bottom picture, I think it's at its final grading. But this section up here is more, it's not in the area that's been finished really. And this is part of phase 2, which they're not going to start building houses here for a while because the economy's slow. They're hoping to finish phase 1 and like not do anything for a while, which is unfortunate because this whole area is all opened up, and this is where their septic system is on the phase 2 side. So yeah, they will be putting more, and this, I think this is seeded. You can't tell, but this slope is seeded.
So the septic will have to be finished before they occupy the phase 1 houses, correct?
Right. I think the septic's pretty much in. I guess I don't have a good picture of that. You can see pieces of it here, but it's all over on to the right of this picture. It's in, I think. And they're starting to sell units. I think they even have a few people, maybe there's one occupied, I'm not sure. So at any rate, this is just kind of a status report. I was mainly concerned with this crossing here and how it was being handled. When I first looked at it, there was a nice stream flowing down here, and then it kind of disappeared in all the mud, and there was no water coming out the bottom. So they were going to fix it up last week and send me pictures, but they haven't yet. But I will keep on top of them if they don't.
Any other questions or comments about Cobbler's Creek?
Nope.
A homeowner asked for permission to remove 4 trees, so including these 2 maples. This is on Pratt Pond. And these two pine trees, well, the pine trees are definitely sick and dying. Maples, I think, are okay, but the woman really wanted them out of there. I did grant permission with leaving the stumps. It's just erosion control inspection for 24 East Street. Also 52 Grove Street, they're putting a new house in here. Basically here, the silt fence is at the 100-foot line. And so they're not filing a notice of intent because they're staying out of it. That's what that is. And 81 Minden Street. This is right on Center Brook. A resident called to complain about the cars here. And it's taken me a while to get out there, but I finally got out there today. This car doesn't even have wheels on it. There's no wheels. The rest of these cars, I don't know if they're drivable or not. One of them's a boat. They are right, pretty close to the river. The planning director was thinking it was more of a conservation issue than anything else. Although the police could get involved if the vehicles are unregistered. So I think they would love it if we wrote them a letter or something.
Mary, aren't those on the lawn?
They are on lawn, yeah.
So how did we get sucked into this?
It's quite, you guys could say it's someone else's problem. I think you could legitimately say I was kind of like, maybe it's more of a building, like a nuisance, a junk, nuisance issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Okay.
I'm
Go ahead,
sorry.
Tom. Sorry, Tom.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tom. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I just don't see this as our issue. I think it's somebody else's zoning or something. I don't know. I just don't see it as our issue unless they're dumping the cars in the brook or something.
Could it be our issue if there are fluids in those cars that could leak into the stream?
Who has the actual authority to ask them to remove the cars, as a nuisance or, I don't think we are an authority with that much clout. I think that there are other authorities that could do this. And if the goal is to get the vehicles removed, then, Board of Health or police or zoning or, I don't know. But I don't feel like we're the most effective entity to act on this.
I'm wondering if code has anything about unroadworthy cars on people's property.
Well, there's our rules about what you can leave. You're not allowed to leave construction materials on your property, even if they're neatly stacked. If anything that's visible and a nuisance, there are regulations about it. We might just want to check and see what those are and see if cars on people's lawns visible from the street are one of them.
Yeah, no, I think for code that they do this would be a violation for code. I'm pretty sure Pat was saying that. So.
Well, I'd be happy to hand it over to Pat.
Yes.
He gets paid the big bucks.
That was that. That is pretty much it, except 167 North Street. You'll remember we had voted on issuing an enforcement order, and I talked to the woman, and she promised to get in a request for certificate of compliance. I did follow up with her a little bit, but still nothing from her. So we may have to, if I don't hear from her by next meeting, we may have to go ahead with that enforcement order to help her get moving there. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mary. And light a fire if you have to.
Yeah.
So, Grace, do you have anything for administrative report?
I do. First, we have one set of minutes, April 26th. I sent out the most recent applied edits this afternoon.
I move that we approve those minutes as corrected.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote to approve the minutes.
Marcella, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Mike,
Tom,
aye.
aye. Tom, aye.
Is that all the members of the commission present? So that be a unanimous vote of the members present. Thank you, Grace. And what else do you have for us?
Mary this week had me work on some templates for the Hike Upton Challenge certificate. I have 3 templates. I can share my screen and get people's thoughts. Here's the first one. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. Here is the second one. And here is the third one. Third one being similar to the first, just added open space committee.
This is Tom. I like 1 and 3 if it matters.
It does, Tom. Your opinion matters, and I agree.
I agree with 1 and 3.
I agree too. The only question I have is, do we need to have the completed hikes list there?
Yeah, that was.
It might be simpler if we just had one. That you could just not have to worry about asking them. So, which hikes have you completed? That type of thing. You could just have one standard form.
Okay,
that's fine. Grace, I had suggested that, and yeah, there's no need for that.
Okay, sounds good. I can remove that.
So, do we need a vote on this?
I don't think you'd have to.
That's good. Thank
you.
That's great.
And then for financial update, no bills to report this week. However, I can share the balance sheet. Not much has changed since last meeting. But we met with Kenny last Friday and got more of an understanding of where some of the numbers were off. So this is where we're at right now.
In the last meeting, they approved the $5,000 addition to the conservation fund. Or do we need to add that in?
Well, that doesn't show up till July, so and Kenny told me how that gets added in. We did talk about how that gets added in, and we won't necessarily see it, but it'll be reflected in the final balance on his side. So we'll add that in July.
Okay, thank you.
So
Do they
final balance, the money, what do we, what money do we have available to us that is not in a revolving fund?
Not very much. The reimbursement for the forestry projects we should be getting that in the mail any day now. I got an email from the woman that said she mailed it out like May 2nd, so I hope it's not lost in the mail. We should be getting that, and that will put our expense account much higher. Although Kenny was explaining that we shouldn't have actually, since that was an in-out, that should have come from some other fund. So we're going to have to fix that. But so we should have more money in the expense account, hopefully in a week.
So does that mean we can hire Greg to do some work, which we've already approved? The Land Stewardship Committee has approved the spending pending our $4,000 reimbursement there. Is that okay?
I would think so. Do you want me to email you when we actually get the check?
Yeah, please. And then we can get in touch with Greg and confirm that he's going to be doing the work at Warren Brook. If he is going to be doing more, I'm not even sure what at this point needs to be done over there. But I do know that it's very wet. So I don't know if he's even going to be able to move around in there much. So, but I just wanted to confirm that we'd have the funds to do that. We could talk about that at the next land stewardship meeting.
Yeah, Scott picked up the seed today or yesterday.
Great. Okay, I think that, yeah, I just want to be sure that we spend things down if we can, if we have funds there, as there are a few things we could spend money on. So, I just need to know before the end of June what we have available. And also, I know that there's a spending freeze. If we don't spend down our money, like, we never see that again, correct? That goes into.
That's right. I think we better spend it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for helping the town pay what it needs to pay for, but some of the things that they need to pay for are our expenses too. So I just don't want to rub anybody the wrong way by spending money that they think should be going into the town coffers. Want to make sure that that's okay. Guess I should have a conversation with Joe, or just not bring it up, and see what we even need and how much money we have to do it. So we may not have any money to do it anyway.
It's Mike. Just a thought. We've got three quotes in for that George Hill Road survey. They range from about $1,500 to like $6,500 or something like that. $1,500 was Ale Engineering. If we need to spend something in June, that might be an option.
Yeah, that's one of the things
it seems like the amount might fit, and it's something that we could quickly probably ask Alan to get out there quickly to do the work. And also, town manager is the one who first noticed this. He should be okay with it, I would hope.
Yeah.
But anyway, we do have the 3 quotes, and the only concern I had about Allen Engineering was either he's giving us a really good deal, or maybe the $6,500 quote just didn't want to touch this, and they gave us a really high quote, and
that was my thinking. It doesn't strike me as that hard a job, but I don't think they wanted the job. So, well, let's talk about that at the next land stewardship meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Well,
Any other questions?
can I just suggest something, Marcella? If we wait till land stewardship, Allen Engineering only have a month to do this. Why don't we talk about this at the next Concom meeting, and if we find we have enough funds available, maybe the commission could pull the trigger there.
Is that something we could decide now? I mean, I would be in favor of doing that if the funds are there. Anybody object? If that $4,000 comes in, we have the money.
Yeah, I think we should probably do that now, assuming we have the money.
Right. So I guess I would make the motion that the Conservation Commission approves the expenditure of, what was that amount?
$1,500.
$1,500 to have Allen Engineering do the survey at 53 George Hill Road.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Marcella, aye.
David, aye.
Okay, so we have a unanimous vote of the members present.
As soon as that 4,000 comes in, let's just give that a go.
Excellent. No. Bill, did you want to add in something about the open space? Maybe?
No.
Sorry, I have one more thing for financial update, Chris.
Go right ahead, Gary.
So there were some questions Mary has gotten recently about the cost of our legal advertising fees. So Mary had me look into previous average costs, as they seem to go up to $110, which is what we are currently charging. The average bill of the list I compiled, which I can share my screen and show, is $85, which does not include the fact that some of them included more than one hearing, which would mean that we are collecting more than one legal ad fee. So Mary wanted me to get the opinion of the commission of whether we should lower that cost. You can see there.
So, we'll think.
The question is how to, like, if we have multiple listings in 1 week, and then somebody else has to, and the multiple listings can be split, then somebody who's got to do a listing is like the single listing for that meeting has to pay the full amount. How do we break it down so that it's fair? I think that was what we decided, it's just to charge everybody a certain amount, and if we can pile other, if we can cluster the listings together, then great. If we can't, then we have our expenses covered.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the 110 seemed high since we've never had one at 110, and that mostly like the old fee of 90 is reasonable because a few times it went over that, but then I think that's offset by the fact that sometimes we get two people paying for one ad. So it seemed like the 90 fee, it's okay to stick with 110. I don't mind, but I hate charging people extra.
90 sounds fine. I just want to make sure we're covered and that it's fair so that people are paying the same amount.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, we might want to just, one thing we could do, if we want to avoid like people saying, oh, why is your legal ad fee so expensive? Which this person really wasn't. They were just asking, what's the legal ad fee again? Is in Webster, our legal ad fee was just included in our regular application fee. So no one ever saw it broken down as separate. And that's just the way it was. But it's nice to have it separate. I don't mind doing it separate, but I just thought maybe pull it a little bit lower to more reflect our actual costs.
I remember when we had this discussion, we went over this, and I thought Dave looked at different communities and what they charged, and I thought, because we weren't charging enough. We went to $110 as a way to protect us, and I see a lot of 98s. I see a 100. I see 99s. I think $110 isn't unreasonable, and I was someone who was complaining about raising the price. So,
okay.
So that's just my opinion. We discussed it, we went over it, and we voted on it, if I remember correctly.
Yep. No, that's fine.
I just want to make sure that we're covered. So it sounds like the 110 is a reasonable amount to ask and cover our expenses.
Actually, I think it would be helpful to have the fee revenues, the ad fee revenues for the same group of expenses to see what the difference is. Because my guess is you are collecting over what we're paying because you are getting instances, and it might be nice to know how often it happens where there's more than one ad and you're collecting two fees.
Yeah, I could have Grace look that up. Certainly there was one that we placed recently that we had 3 on. So yeah, it does happen sometimes. Then we can come up with for the year, like our average cost per legal ad per year, and you could just see that. But I'm okay with just saying it's 110, and that's the way it is. And the town gets a little extra money if they get extra money. But certainly, yeah.
Well, administrative fees,
Yeah, it costs money to do the work here.
Right.
So
I don't think it's unreasonable, and it's justifiable.
Yep. I hope that one day that the legal ads will go onto some online forum and there won't be a fee for them. I just feel like it's kind of a racket. But that's part of the law.
At this point, what is our overall consensus?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you just said, Chris.
What is overall consensus of what we are telling Mary and Grace to do?
I just leave it at 110.
Excellent.
Okay. At this point, leave it at 110. Okay, anything else, Grace?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Bill, how about open space?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. And under new items, Mary.
Yes, we have a couple of certificates of compliance. I'm gonna pull them up out of order just because it's easier that way. Okay, so the residents at 108 Grove Street, they had 3 orders on the registry that need to be taken care of. One of them, they just never got recorded. So one of the things we're going to vote on tonight is reissuing a certificate of compliance for 311-652, and that was for a house addition. This one here is 311-772, and that was when they had an oil leak. I looked at the order. It called for some restoration of the bank, but we did a little bit more research, and it turns out the bank was never altered because they didn't actually have to clean up as much as they thought they were going to. And this shows, these are pictures that were taken in 2020 after the work was complete. So it shows some work in the driveway area and kind of at the edge of the lawn, but it never really got that close to the stream. And they had this was the plan that was in the people who produced the report of where they had to clean out. And this brown line here shows the limits of excavation where they had to dig out the dirty dirt that was contaminated by oil. And here's the stream right there. So they were pretty far away from the stream. So I recommend we issue a certificate of compliance for this work.
Okay, do we have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for the work?
So moved.
Second. Let's vote on this. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Marcella, aye.
David, aye.
Mike, aye.
Alan, aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission, members present. So was there another one, Mary?
Yeah. So on the same property, this was for the installation of a swimming pool. And maybe I'll start with a plan on this one. Sorry about that. Here's the house, here's the pool. This is the 100-foot riverfront area. And this is, this was, I think before this project, it was mostly all grass. Part of the order was planting trees to mitigate for the work basically in the riverfront area. And so take a good look at this here. It's a pretty large area. They did plant trees. I think they just planted in a smaller area. Right, here's showing the pool. This is the stream area, and this is the area that they planted with trees. There are a bunch of trees in here, at least 10. There were supposed to be 20. And then along the edge of the stream, these trees just came up naturally, a bunch of streams. So they do have a nice natural buffer now. And I think at the bottom I show, yeah, here we go. So if you look at the near map, you can kind of see, I kind of guesstimated this is, and they have one tree here. So some of the trees they planted are in grass, and then some of them, it's kind of, they've let go naturalized. So instead of being 30 feet wide, it's about 20 feet wide, and it's approximately, the size that was shown on the plans. Maybe not quite as many trees. And not necessarily all native. They had a hydrangea and stuff in there, but I think it's well vegetated, pretty much well vegetated. So I talked to the homeowner, and there is a dirt pile here near the stream that he had put there recently. He assured me he would move it away, get rid of it. And then the only other question, I don't know if this isn't really connected with this project, but I noticed that they had this pipe going straight into the stream, and he said it was his foundation drain. So I don't know if we want to delve into that. It's not really part of the pool project, but it is something I noticed. The other issue with this project is that it required an as-built. And Linda did reach out to her engineering company, and they had not, they don't typically prepare one just for a pool. And I don't know, Linda, are you on the call tonight? I thought she might come on, but I'm suggesting that maybe for the pool, we consider waiving the as-built requirement, and just, especially since this is so old, this is from 2008, and just go ahead and issue a certificate of compliance.
Do you have any comments from the commission?
The fact that they didn't plant the 20 trees, is that offset by the trees that have come in naturally?
That was kind of my thought. And I'm not sure, I didn't count them all. They may have planted some, just not, like, there's a bunch of trees all over the property. I don't know if they just didn't plant them all right in that area, or yeah. I mean, there's certainly, you could put more trees in here.
And do you feel assured that that dirt pile will be removed, or do you think we should wait to see that it's gone before we?
Yeah, we could wait. It sounded like he had the equipment on site to do it, so that was a good sign to me. But yeah, we can certainly wait till he's got that done. I would be fine with that.
Okay, do you have any other comments?
Could we ask for a couple more trees to be installed, like restoration grade trees, not anything that's going to cost them more than a few bucks? Yeah, kind of like in there somewhere, Mary, maybe a couple.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
As long as they understand we're not looking for 2-inch caliper diameter thing. We're just 4 to 6 foot high. Nissa or something like that. Asking about Nissa, that would look really pretty there someday.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't actually count these because I was in the middle of looking at them, and the homeowner came out and we started talking, and I forgot to count. I can go back and count them.
Do you need a vote from us, Mary?
Oh, we can wait on this one.
Okay.
I think we might need a vote to reissue the other one that is a reissue, though. That one was for $652.
The fact that this dates back so far, what's the reason for their wanting a certificate of compliance now rather than 10 years ago?
Well, I don't know if they're considering selling the property or whether they had talked to a lawyer. Just they wanted to get everything in order. So
no, it just seems like a long time to let that go.
Yeah, well, wait till you see the next one.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
It could be flagged for refinance.
Yeah, maybe they're refinancing or something. I don't know.
Uh-huh. But I'd be okay with waiving the as-built plans thing. It doesn't sound like that's necessary.
Yes, I agree. Need to vote for that, Mary?
Well, we're waiting to vote on this one until we talk to them about a few more trees. And they may come back and say, we did do 20 trees, and I'll just make sure they show them all to me. So.
And I had one other item to add. New items, because I don't know if you saw the list that Sandy Huxwell sent around, and for the for conservation, Mike and I both have to be reappointed for 3 years, and then for open space and land stewardship, everyone has to reapply because everyone's for 1 year. So I would say to make sure you respond back to her email, and then there's also a file that people need to fill out and then sign and get back to the town hall by the 1st. And I do know that the lakes and ponds are also on there. And I believe that was everything. So open space and land stewardship, Mike and I for conservation, and lakes and ponds. And for ongoing items, do we have anything that people want to discuss?
Chris, I have one more certificate of compliance for us to
Okay.
do. This is Knowlton Circle. And I think we typically issue partials for this, but I want to talk about the bigger problem of the fact that this, to me, it's a pretty big problem that this big development never got a certificate of compliance for Knowlton Circle. And so there's two order of conditions here. And in the order for the work at Knowlton Circle, you know, there's a stormwater system that they're supposed to be maintaining. And this is the stormwater system, you know, it's full of trees. I guess it's working. I don't know. We don't have any reports of flooding, but it's clearly not being maintained. And they're supposed to be sending us reports every year, etc. So that's kind of the problem with this one. This is the biggest problem, I would say. And then the other one is 450 is also the Samreen Village, and this is on Maple Street, the two condominium complexes on Maple Street. I think it's mostly set. There was supposed to be wetland restoration for this piece, and I didn't get down in there to look and see if it was done. My guess is it was, because it was, I guess there were piles of just material that they were removed, and I didn't see any piles. It looks like it's okay. This might be an encroachment kind of into the wetland, but I guess it's okay. The wetland is right there. This lawn area wasn't on the plans. It's not a huge deal. And this is kind of looking into the wetland. You can't see very well. Unfortunately, I didn't take very good pictures, but. So I kind of feel like the builder still owns the complex. So I feel like he owns the road. We can write him a letter and ask them to get our certificates of compliance. I don't know if and this one also asks for an as-built. So to do an as-built on this, you know, that's going to cost him some money. But I think for a condominium complex, it seems like you should be doing an as-built. And the stormwater basin should be maintained.
Does the builder still own the stormwater system as well as the road?
The stormwater system was supposed to go to the homeowners group. I think it's hard to tell because it looks like one lot. And the only reason I figured out, I just talked to the assessor. And so each house gets billed individually for their house, but it still looks like one lot. There's no individual lot lines. So I would assume that and then he gets billed for the road, I guess. So I don't know how it works out as to who actually owns the stormwater.
Is there like a management or a condo association, or like somebody has to be making these decisions? Apparently they're not, but.
Yeah, there is a homeowners association, which I don't think I have the contact information for. So that we need to figure out.
Yeah, because, we can straighten this all out, but we want to make sure they keep on top of what they're supposed to keep on top of in the future.
Right.
I wonder if there's an O&M plan buried deeply in the file.
I did find that.
Oh, cool.
But I don't think it's the final one. This was, the order refers to another one that was published after this, but this is the one I could find. So yeah, there's continuing maintenance, all sorts of inspections.
I know a long time ago we were getting reports, but not for the last 5 years or so.
Oh, you think you were getting reports from this one?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I can't remember the name of the engineer or the owner who sent them to us. But we haven't received anything for quite a long time.
Okay.
I guess we could require an inspection report with recommendations, you know, for maintenance of the system.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like, you know, if every couple of years a unit is sold and then we end up doing these partials, it kind of defeats the purpose of there being a certificate of compliance in the end.
So there were ways to track down who the original developer was, and if he still owns the roadway and stuff.
Yes, he's still, the original developer is still got his name on the road. So I think certainly a letter to him. So he should have been the one to do the as-built, et cetera.
Is that
I don't
something
know.
you could? Is that something, Mary, you could draft up for us?
Yeah, I'll write up a letter. So it seems like we kind of have two things. We've got maybe a letter to the homeowners association about the stormwater, and then a letter to the developer about, well, just about closing out the project.
That sounds great. Do you need a vote on those two letters?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But we do need a vote if we're going to issue the partial. I think we should issue the partial for this for people that are trying to sell their condo.
Okay. Could we have a motion to issue a partial certificate of compliance for 12 Knowlton Circle?
Yeah, and that's on two orders, 311, 449, and 450.
Okay. For two of them, as Mary stood today, 449 and 450.
So moved.
Give me a second.
Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Do we hear from Tom?
Yes, I was an aye.
Thank you. And Alan?
Yep, I was an aye.
Okay, and David?
Sorry, Chris. Also aye.
Okay, so it's a unanimous vote of the commission to issue the two partial certificates of compliances, as Mary noted. So is that everything for new items, Mary?
Yeah, I'm all set now.
Okay, thank you. Now for ongoing items.
Got that letter for the Dogwood Drive. I don't know if people had a chance to look at it, but we sent that out. Chris had some changes that she requested, and that was the only comment that I got. Mary inserted those changes. And the only other thing I need to add to that, if people are okay with what I wrote, is to pick a date to go down there and identify where the bounds are. And I'm not going down there by myself to do that. So I need help. Anybody who is interested or not, I don't care if you're not interested, somebody's coming with me.
When are you thinking of going, Marcella?
I'm pretty flexible. If you are interested in helping out with this, then I will work with what your schedule is like.
I am on vacation next week. So, for the most part, after, around 1:00, I could probably do it on pretty much most any day next week.
Okay. I have let's see, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday would be fine after
Okay,
1
why don't we
o'clock.
make it Monday?
Okay, Monday the 15th.
Yeah, 1:00. Where are we gonna meet?
We'd meet at the cul-de-sac where the trailhead is on
By the
Dogwood
tracks,
Road.
right? That's by the
Yeah,
tracks.
on the
Okay.
tracks, but yeah, right by
All
the
right.
track.
Okay. All right. I'll
And
put it
anybody
down.
else who wants to come along is welcome to do so.
So that was at 1. That was at 1:00.
Yes.
I should be able to do that too. I can bring a tape measure, and we should bring Marcella should bring a copy of the plan or the.
Yeah, you sent that to me. I've got that. I don't know if everybody else had a chance to see it. So in any event, into that letter where the little X's are, I will, if we could just insert May 15th at 1 p.m., that would be great. And
Yeah, and Marcel or Mike, this was the same person that we sent notice that we were going to do the cleanup day, right? That we had an email for.
That's correct. Yeah.
So we should. I mean, we'll get the letter ready and sign it. Could you have Grace? I'm going to be. I'm having to pick up my son tomorrow. So if Grace can mail this, Chris, are you okay with Grace signing this for you?
Yes, please. And it would be great to put this letter on our letterhead, but then it would also have our phone number on it.
yeah, Mary did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
So
And
will you email it as well as mail it? Just,
yeah, so we'll email it as well as
yeah.
mail it, since the 15th is kind of close. That way she'll have plenty of warning.
Yeah. As far as I know, that's her email. Oh, that's their email. I've never gotten really a reply from them the last few times we've contacted them about cleanups.
But she was out. She showed up at the end of the driveway.
Okay.
Yeah, she didn't talk to us, but she was there. So.
Oh, good. Maybe they did get it then. The
I
emails
think she
haven't
probably-
bounced, so
Yeah.
hopefully she's getting them.
Is there any reason we need to send it, with the proof of delivery or anything, or is that unnecessary?
The best way to do it is a certificate of mailing, because that goes to the people, and it doesn't need to have them go to the post office and get the green card and stuff. But you have something from the post office to prove you did mail it to them. And I think it costs like $1.
Might as
Yeah,
well
we
do
can-
that.
Yeah, we can do that.
If it doesn't put you out too much, Grace, to go to the post office.
And it's called a certificate of mailing. And you can pick up a bunch of them. So then you have them for next time. And it's viewed legally the same as the green card one. But it's less onerous on people. Because they may not go pick it up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, cover ourselves. Do you feel that that's necessary? I don't know if it adds a level of officialdom that we don't really need to impose on people.
So it's the same level of officialness, but it makes it most likely that people will go get it rather than have it sit in the post office for a while.
I think it protects us legally if there's any, it's good to have a paper trail where you can establish that it was delivered. I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay. All right. So, if there's anything else, is this something that you all have under control, Grace, or do you need something else from me?
I can talk, I think Grace should be able to do it. I can talk to her about it after the meeting or something if you have questions, Grace.
Okay. Well, don't hesitate to give me a call.
It's okay, Grace, if you sign my name and then just put your initials next to it. That's what Denise would do before. And anything else under anything to take off of our ongoing ones? If not, we'll leave everything there as it is. Anything to add to anything? Hearing none, we should have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Aye.
you, Grace. Good job, everyone.